It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilly.
Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. This podcast was formed to collectively build a bank of stories from normal people sharing their non-linear paths. Unfortunately, social media paints a narrow picture of what success looks like, so I'm doing my best to spread the news that changing course is common and you don't have to know what you want to do the rest of your life at 18. If you're a parent worried about your young adult and whether their path is leading them to success, you're in the right place. I'm a therapeutic consultant who works with young adults to connect them with resources that'll help them get back on that path to success. So if you're curious, let's chat. You can schedule a free consultation through my website. Today's guest is Dan Jordan. Dan has worked as the accessibility coordinator and a counselor in higher education for over 10 years and is just completing his 15th year. With over 25 years combined in community mental health and in higher education, Dan has a passion for student success and wellness, advocacy, and ensuring students have the access that they need. As a father of a son with learning differences, he also understands a parent's perspective and concerns about accommodations in high school and college and the critical importance of self-advocacy and mental wellness. So let's not wait any longer. Here's Dan. Well, Dan, thank you so much for carving out some time to be a guest on the Success is Subjective podcast. I'm super excited to actually get the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. I feel like I've been one of those creepers on the web who's been admiring what it is that you do, but to actually meet you and have you as a guest is exciting and it's an honor. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love the title for what you do, Success is Subjective. That goes with everything that I do. So it is very cool to be here and to be on your show.
Well, we're going to talk about that then, right? What it is that you do and how that's tied into it. So let's just dive in. For the first couple minutes of the podcast, I always like to get a little bit of backstory on the actual guests themselves. So shed some light on your own personal journey, how it led to where you are now. So if you feel comfortable, give us a little bit of the backstory. Where did you grow up? What was kind of your journey through young adulthood? And then we'll kind of make our way towards the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, not a problem. Grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a coal mining town in northeastern Pennsylvania. Great little town, salt of the earth people, really good stuff. Went to a private school, paid for that pretty much largely myself, and was expected that you're supposed to go to college. I was torn with going to college because I kind of knew I wasn't ready because I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I took the advice of others like, hey, just go and explore and whatever you fall into. And I was like, I was really kind of wanting to take some time off, and really gap years were not a thing, especially with a private school where you're wearing a tie all the time and, you know, they're like titans of industry around town and you're kind of with these people. So taking a gap year to figure it all out was not the norm. So I kind of pressured myself into going, and I kind of floundered around for a while. College didn't take seriously at all. I was smart enough just to get B's and not do jack. So I really didn't take it seriously. I partied an awful lot, way too much, had way too much of a good time. And really career stuff just wasn't kind of it until I kind of hit like senior year. And I was like, wait a second, hang on. I have to kind of figure this out. And luckily, the psych program had a class all in career development for graduates in the psych program. And I fell into that major just because I kind of liked it. I took a statistics class, which typically people hate. And they're like, I hate this. This is just absolutely boring. But my teacher was just rock solid. He was a rock star. He really was. He was fantastic. I was like, you know, you made the most boring subject ever really interesting. And I just found myself really falling into that. So research was sort of kind of what I did too. And that was really interesting. But as far as getting a job or doing anything about that, I was like, whoa, hold up. That really scared the pants off of me. And one of the best things that I heard was people change jobs 4 or 5 times, like careers, not just jobs, not just, hey, I'm a lawyer, but so I'm going to go over here and do lawyering over here at this, a different agency. No, you're a lawyer, then you're a basket weaver, then you're a grocery clerk, then you're something else. Like there's all different kinds of careers. And that took the pressure off a little bit, but I still had to do something. You know what I mean? So I floundered around for a while, just trying to figure that out. Wait tables, worked for PennDOT for a while. That was a great time. Great stories. Love those people. But it just kind of floundered around for a while until I figured it out. And then met my wife, and I was like, okay, I definitely have to figure things out, because I was like, this is somebody that I really want to get my act together and have that life with this person, or at least kind of see if I could have a life with this person. But I started taking everything seriously as soon as she showed up. And I was kind of along that path. It just made it into like just a rocket, just like took off. And I was like, okay, I got to get my house in order. And that led to other jobs. Moved back to Arizona and got a job doing some reunification work with kids that were taken away from the state, taken away from their families by the state. So there's either some kind of reason for that happening. And we were charged with bringing them back into the house. And that led to going to grad school and being a therapist. And that led to getting back on campus to what I'm doing now. So that led to that whole thing of having that kind of work out. So that's kind of life in a nutshell.
I love that. I love hearing that story. So are you okay with me asking questions right off the cuff?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So first things first, I'm just curious if your own personal experience of kind of going through the like college, like we're saying, hey, I was pressured into going to school because that's what it felt like I was supposed to do.
Right.
If some of your own personal experiences going to college, kind of just like figuring it out academically, but really thriving socially and like with your peers. And then the tangential, like, okay, it's okay to do all these random jobs because it doesn't really matter. My question is, how does this influence your personal experience? How does this influence the work that you do, or like going into the work that you do with the students that you work with right now?
A lot, actually, more than I probably thought. I thought, hey, let me just get a job on a college campus. They don't come up very often. I love being on a college campus. I love the population. I love the age. I love the issues. But it is something that I feel very strongly about and gravitate towards because of all the stuff that I had to go through. All the things with like gap year. I'm a very strong proponent of gap years. Like I'm a very strong proponent of don't go to college unless you kind of have a reason for being there. I didn't, so I'm a strong proponent of that. Seeing people flounder around for a variety of different reasons, getting them back on track and making sure that they have something that's healthy for them. You know, I kind of partied a lot, but I was also depressed an awful lot. So getting that back on track for some people, yeah, there's some stuff. And, you know, for people that don't have hope and like, I'm not really sure, I'm like, great, you can figure this out. You don't have to do this right now if you don't want to. You can do something else, figure it out, come back to us. I just want what's best for them all the time. I don't care what that is. Yeah, I'm part of retention efforts, you know, that's definitely a thing. But retention is also like, hey, if you take a gap year and you take some time off and then you come back to us and you're like, hey, I figured it out. Thanks for letting me know. That's kind of the best outcome. I just got an email from someone that I saw last year, and it was like, I saw the person twice and their mental health was not good. And I said, look, you need to take your recovery much more seriously than you actually are. And what you're being told from other people, including myself, is you need to take some time off, get yourself together, and then come back and do what you got to do. You love both, but you got to focus on your mental health. Just got the email maybe 3 days ago and thanked me for being the one to push them into the recovery and actually say the phrase, you need to take this seriously. And they thanked me that they took like 6-7 months off and then came back into the program and was very much involved in what they're doing, but in a very much more healthy way. So that's kind of the epitome of what I do. I probably should have been one of those people to say, to take a year off or to get my mental health together or figure something out. It took me much longer to do that. And there's a lot of pressure for college students to figure it out. And I probably should have taken the pressure off. Like Gary Vee is one of the most prominent proponents of like, look, you're not going to figure it out until you're 40. That's a thing. Like, really, that's a thing. I didn't feel like adult until I probably was like 45, right? I stopped listening to like all the rock music. I stopped like going to concerts and those kinds of things. Like, I just have kids, you know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. So I just started taking things a little more seriously. But in your 20s and 30s, like, come on, you're still, trying to figure stuff out and taking the pressure off. I wish somebody had said some of the stuff that I say to people. I wish somebody had said, hey, take this seriously. I wish somebody had said, you know what? You need to take some time off and figure some stuff out. You need to do that for yourself. I wish that had been the case. It wasn't. And I even went to the counseling center on my campus, and it was a shit show. And I was like, it was an absolute shit show. And it was the last time that I went because it was just like... it just wasn't anything. So I'm like, okay, I take that experience and go, that is not going to happen to anybody who walks through that door. Mm-hmm. It's just not. It's not going to happen to them. I want it to be welcoming. I want them to know that this is no judgment time at all. And I want you to get what you need. I'm just interested in you being as healthy as you possibly can. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to do any of that stuff. I'm here to point you in the right direction as best I can. So that's kind of like it in a nutshell. That's kind of the philosophy behind all this. And that's kind of from what I didn't have and from the things that I wish I had. Yeah. That's kind of how that all comes about.
Well, it's like it's very evident to me that it comes across clearly, and I'm sure it will to the audience listening, that you really care about the person. It's not about the student. It's not about the plan. It's like, let's strip all of that away. What I'm looking at is a human being that is somehow experiencing imbalance, and they're in a place of vulnerability, and they just need somebody to say, I see you. Here's what you need. And that might be stepping away from campus. It might be getting help. I mean, it could be right. I mean, obviously it's a litany of things, but it is about that human connection and being that support. And I always remember, having worked in retention myself, that one of the key pieces was that if a student feels like they belong, right? And sometimes that is literally one staff on a massive campus that could make or break a student feeling like they have a sense of community or they have a seat at the table, literally.
Yep, 100%.
So for the people that are listening and they're not, like lurkers like me online, and they're like, who the heck is Dan Jordan? Like, what do you do? Tell the actual listeners, what are the roles that you have?
Oh, wow. Lots of them. Son, thank God my mom's still alive. That's really cool. I'm just blessed with that all the time. I'm a dad to 3 great kids who are some are young adults right now. One of my sons, he's taking his time to figure it out, and I am stoked that he's doing so. And gap years were kind of part of that. He ran into some mental health and some health issues that he just had to take some time off. And because I'm a strong proponent of that and I'm non-judgmental, I'm like, we got to get you to a place where you can figure some stuff out. And he's there. My other son, he's in the Air Force. My daughter is about to be, she's in her junior year, so that's cool. I'm a husband, so that's kind of, a thing. And that's going really well. I'm also director of a counseling services center on a college campus. So I get to direct all the stuff. I get to kind of, put stuff out, emails, here's one little thing, push you in the right direction, that kind of stuff. So I get to do that. Interns, love them. Love the interns. I get to, do the next generation of therapists that have, that kind of holistic approach. We're just going to see you as a whole person and try and treat the entire person for that. So that goes into that. Also have kind of a side gig, which is, that's accessibility. And that was part of what got me on a college campus, was doing the accessibility. And at the same time, my son just got diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. So it was kind of like I'm doing the IEP thing, but I'm also doing the after thing with accessibility for all of this, and just seeing students who just can't self-advocate for what they need at all. And that really hurt an awful lot. Just being able to, like, I'm trying to help them advocate and really trying to do my best, but noticing my son has some of the similar issues that I'm like, that can't happen for him. And so, I understand that most people do not have a dad who works in college accessibility, and that's kind of a big privilege for him. And so I want to make sure that other students can be able to have that information, especially parents, because they're the driver behind a lot of this stuff. They're the driver. Yes, we want the student to be the main driver, but we understand that somebody's got to be in the car first and show you how it works. And that's usually a parent who's kind of pushing that along. So that's kind of some of the roles that I play, and I'm stoked for each one of them. So.
Well, and we'll make sure that we have links in the show notes too. So for any parent that's listening or a young adult that is kind of like, hey, I might actually need that support with the advocacy and kind of the accessibility piece. So we'll make sure that that is also linked in the show notes, like I said. And so having heard you talk about all of the hats that you wear, which is a lot, right? And there's so many layers of intersections, and it's actually kind of a beautiful way. Just for those who are only listening, you lit up. Like your face was like totally lit up when you were talking about all of those roles. So clearly there's a lot of passion and pride and excitement and everything that you're able to identify with right now. So having heard that, I always ask all of my guests this question.
Sure.
But knowing where you are in your life right now, do you see yourself as successful?
I really want to say yes. But I know that my pride will get in the way of me saying yes. I know that my pride will take yes and just run rampant with that. And I'm like, no, I can't. I just can't allow myself to say that. I am in some ways. Let's put it this way. I think I have figured myself out finally at 55. I think I've figured out sort of my rhythm and what I do. Am I successful with that? Yes, 100%. I think I got my feet firmly planted on the ground. I'm confident in what I do every day. I'm confident in my abilities. I'm confident in my skill set, and helping people, being a dad, husband, that kind of stuff. It's ever shifting, but I think I got my feet underneath me. And that's really good. I think what I would probably define as success is figuring out the process by which to just get better at the stuff that you need to get better at. And am I successful in that? Most of the time. That didn't always happen. I mean, just listen to my story about college. That didn't always happen, that's for sure. But successful in figuring out for myself what I want to be how do I want to put myself out there to the world? How do I want to be remembered? And this is kind of like, one of those, like, what about Bob? Death therapy, right? Like that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, write your own obituary. How do you want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as somebody that had an impact on some people. That's it. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, hey, if I could just save one life, I'm on my third dozen. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good with that. Like, how many people can I have a positive impact on, including my kids? How do I do that? Am I kind of successful at that? No, but I'm successful at figuring out what I'm not successful at with it. And then I can make those changes. So, yeah, it's always something where I thought, learning was just sort of an end point and that's it. Like, you're done. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's not what happens. I learned that lesson when I was doing PennDOT, right? And the guy's like taking college classes. I'm like, why are you taking college classes? He's like, you never stop learning. I was like, wow, I never heard that before. That's like, 1989, right? Like, this is way back then. I'm like, I never forgot that. And I remember where I was. I remember standing next to the big yellow truck. I remember exactly who I was talking to. And you just never stop learning. Am I successful at that? Sure, because I'm always confronted with stuff that I don't know. And as soon as I think that I know something, I'm like, think again. There's a lot to know. So I think I'm successful at kind of some stuff, the process by which to do things. So
yeah. I love that. So now we're going to kind of just piggyback off of that. And you work with parents, right, of young adults or soon to be college students that are navigating the accessibility and support process. You're also working with students. And so I think we're talking about two very different perspectives, but I'm just kind of curious how you are able to work with parents. And obviously, if this is like too intense of a question, we can table it for later or scratch it all together. But my thought was, you're dealing with people with very different perspectives of what success looks like, right? For a parent,
Right.
what does success look like for your young person who's getting ready to be a college student, as a, whatever the generation they're called right now that are 18 to 22?
Right.
What are they viewing as success? And it's really hard to, I think you and I were joking, like 5 careers, like that's awesome. That's exciting to me. And yet we're dealing with a population of young people that can't even select classes because they are so overwhelmed with, I don't even know what I want to do, right? Even
Right.
if they have a clear kind of academic vision for what degree they want. But now I'm a little bit in the weeds. Let me pause myself and collect. How do you support, or what do you say differently to parents when they're talking about what success looks like for their child on a college campus? And how do you kind of share the same messaging or similar messaging to a student that you might be working with?
The message is kind of the same. I just say it maybe in a different way. I just maybe approach it in a different way. Like to a college student, I'm like, hey, let me take the pressure off. There's a lot of pressure that you have, but I got to teach you how to deal with it first and foremost so that you're in a position that you can kind of do what you got to do. Like a little stress goes a long way on a college campus. You're not entering college without some stress. You're not going to experience college without some of that. But success-wise, like getting the degree. Okay, well, now we got to figure out how to do that. Okay, you have a little bit of time and it's okay to take some time off. So I'm a little flexible with that, but I'm also, hey, you got to manage some stuff. You got to treat yourself well. You got to deal with yourself well. You got to have those sort of like your self-care toolkit. You got to have some of that stuff. For parents, it's kind of the same thing. And it's a little bit different. I shift it a little bit with parents saying, don't put the pressure on. They're already under pressure. So how are you going to make sure that you're approaching things in a way that helps them be at their best? Kind of that shift of roles, because I'm in that shift of roles too. So now I'm more of a guide more than like, don't do this, get on a chore, and this kind of stuff. Like the normal parenting that like an 8-year-old would probably have. Well, these guys are 20, 22, and like 16. I got to do things differently with those guys. So that guide of I have to be kind of, guiding them. So that means I got to be making those changes. So I do a parent kind of training every year here. And I talk to the parents and I'm like, hey, look, you guys lead the way. They're paying attention to you. You guys need to make sure that, hey, if you're not, especially the men in the room, I'm like, if you have a boy who's coming to college, like they're not coming to the college counseling center. You have to model how to ask for help. You have to model these kinds of things. You have to be Johnny on the spot. You got to be responsible. You got to, get yourself together. You also have to be able to ask for help. So if you haven't been to the dentist and you're afraid of the dentist, guess what? Guess what you're making as soon as you leave this office, as soon as you leave this presentation, you're calling the dentist and get your butt in there. If you haven't gotten a physical, guess what you're doing? You're doing that because they're paying attention. And you don't have to tell them, hey, help seeking is great. No. You have to model it. You have to walk that walk and talk the talk. You just can't say it and, well, it just applies to everybody else. No. It applies to you as parents. So if you're trying to make yourself at your best and you still have struggles, okay, fine, ask for the help. You're modeling that, but you're also kind of pointing them in the right direction. Hey, it's not easy for me to go to the dentist. It's probably not easy for you to go to the tutoring center, but you got problems in math. You might want to do that. For the students, it's a little bit different. Like, hey, it's okay to go down. You might just need to walk through that difficulty just once. And then you're like, cool, okay. Like the typical thing, like this happens all the time. How do I make a doctor's appointment? I've never done that on my own. I'm like, okay, well, then that's something that I can walk you through. And then it's like, oh my God, why did I make such a big deal about that? Like, yeah, okay, it's not that big of a deal. You can do it now. It's just the experience kind of thing. But if they're experiencing that little difficulty, but they're watching their parents go through it too, and they're leading the way, then that takes the pressure off. Hey, my dad just did that, and I'm really proud of my dad for doing that. I'm really proud of my mom for doing X, whatever that is. Then you can kind of walk through that difficulty because you're watching it happen. So it's kind of the same kind of message. Take the pressure off, but also guide. But you're guiding yourself as an adult and you're watching your parents do that and like, oh, I kind of want to do that. Okay, cool. Well, how do I set that up for you so you can do that for yourself? Some of that's modeling, some of that's knowing the resources that are out there. So yeah, I'll tell parents about the resources. I'll tell them how to get it, and then they can sort of guide their student in terms of what they need to do. So kind of the same message, just a little bit of a tweak there in terms of how I would emphasize things.
Yeah, I love that. I think that was tremendously helpful for the young adults that are listening and the parents of the young adults that are going to listen to this. So last question, and this is a little bit open-ended, also going off script. Here I am. This is like,
Go for it.
In my prime. I'm so excited.
Let's do it.
In you sharing again what it is that your own personal journey and obviously professionally how that has kind of manifested to what it is that you're doing, the information that you provide, the roles that you share. Yeah. Is there anything else that you have not shared or infused in terms of advice or suggestions or just guidance along the way that you want to mention as a closing comment?
Yeah, you're going to figure it out. You will figure it out. It's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of how. So, and the quality of you figuring something out is going to matter about what you do. You could put all the pressure you want on yourself. Is that really helpful? Probably not. So you might want to do some things to take, the pressure off. somebody was DMing me on Instagram. This is like 2 years ago, but never forgot it. He said, what do I do for gap year? And I was like, hey, gap year is great. You got to figure some stuff out. So take some classes and maybe take 1 or 2 at a community college. Definitely ask for the accommodations, walk through that whole process so you know what to do, but then you also have to use them. And that's an important piece. So you know how to do things, kind of that sort of, you get to know a college campus a little bit. You get to know the workload. You get to know kind of how to navigate things around. And then you kind of use their career center for doing that stuff. But that's a process. You have to use that process. And maybe somebody's process is, I just need to go to work and I need to do that. I need to figure out what I like. And that's great. Maybe you figure out what you don't like. Awesome. That's great information. That's awesome information. But that process by which to figure out what you want to do and what really drives you, that's a whole process. And you got to give yourself a little bit of a break for that. But you just can't sit around and do nothing. You have to actively be doing that. You have to actively be pursuing what it is that you want. It's kind of like people who seek the truth in whatever it is, they're going to find it. And the same thing is for whatever it is that drives you as a person, whatever it is that's going, however you figure that out, that's what's driving the whole thing. And that's a good thing. You're going to find it and you're going to find it eventually.
Dan, thank you so much for carving out time, sharing your story, imparting all of this wisdom for the parents and young adults that are listening to this, especially those that are college connected or taking a break, because everything that you have shared has been so invaluable. So thank you again for your time. And we'll make sure that anybody that wants to reach out, all of those links are in the show notes.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was one of the best talks I've had. So thanks for having me on.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.